So it's all Russians doing.
Yes, Master.
And that was not the first time. It was the second time. The first time was under Boris Yeltsin. The second time, at that time, the prime minister was Vladimir Putin.
Yes,
He wasn't president, he was prime minister the second time. And then the first war had already damaged a lot, especially the capital, Grozny. And then in the second war, they have not even enough time. It was only 1996 when the first war ceased.
Yes.
They settled with a ceasefire with Boris Yeltsin. Boris Yeltsin signed the peace treaty with Chechnya in 1997. But 2 years later, the second Chechen war broke out again, started by Russia. At that time was the future president, Vladimir Putin.
Yes, Master.
Only 2 years, the Chechens had not enough time to recover. That's why he attacked again, because he knew they are still vulnerable and weak.
Yes.
So Grozny was left as a big hole in the map. The United Nations called that hole the most destroyed city on the planet.
Wow.
Almost nothing left standing.
That's so terrible.
And almost no one was spared.
Oh, goodness.
The first war that Putin led was one of the worst humanitarian disasters in recent history. In 1999, when he was only the second most powerful man in Russia, he sent forces into Chechnya, just a few years after the Russian military had previously invaded under Boris Yeltsin. The two relentless Chechen campaigns set the template for Putin's wars. Russian forces flattened the capital, Grozny.
The months of relentless and indiscriminate Russian bombing have left Grozny a dead city.
By the time they'd left, up to 8,000 civilians were dead. And the UN described Grozny as the most destroyed city on Earth. Russia's wars have followed the same pattern ever since.
Yeah, you can read it in history.
Yes, Master.
And about 250,000 civilians were killed in the combined Chechen wars.
Wow.
And reports of rape, same like in Ukraine right now. Reports of rapes, arson, torture, and other crimes by Russian soldiers were widespread and cast as the wholly necessary evil by those forces. How can any evil be necessary? Huh?
That's really nice.
And one of the Russian soldiers at that time told the Los Angeles Times in 2000, we have to be cruel to them, to the Chechen people. Otherwise, we will achieve nothing. Believe that? That's his words. So in order to achieve something, you have to be cruel, no matter if they have done anything to you or not. At that time, Vladimir Putin, already a president, kind of have a direct rule of Chechnya from May 2000. They still belong to Russia.
Yes, Master.
And some years later, another Chechen came in, became president, of course, and became rich. They enriched themselves during the time they ruled the Chechen Republic. And he is a very ruthless leader. He's just all pro-Russian.
Yes, Master. Yes.
All pro-Putin. That's why he became president. I think he wasn't voted by the people, but it's just like a puppet for Putin. Putin appointed him to be the president.
Yes, Master.
This president, his name is Kadyrov. People refer to him as a brutal puppet or attack dog of the Russian president, Vladimir Putin. He is a complete puppet of Putin, of the Kremlin. He even brought his people to Ukraine to kill the Ukrainian people for Putin, for the Kremlin. And he should know there was no reason to do that. But because Russia completely controls Chechnya, so all the leaders, whoever they might be, if they don't listen to the Kremlin, if they don't do what the Kremlin orders, they will not survive. Not to talk about continue to be in the leading role in Chechnya. So if Ukraine does this, it will be the same. Russia will install any so-called leader there in Ukraine just to be a slave and listen to absolutely every order from the Kremlin.
Yes, Master.
You can see the evidence.
Yes, Master.
Yes, Master.
And this Mr. Kadyrov, the so-called head of the Chechen Republic, since 2007 until now. That is a long, long time for a head of a state.
Yes, Master.
Similar to Putin and the president of Belarus. They have things in common. Maybe that's why they like each other. And in order to survive so long as a head, I guess he has to be the absolute hand and feet of the head of Russia, the Kremlin.
Yes.
Yes.
The present leader of Chechnya, Kadyrov, is brutally oppressing, killing, murdering, torturing the Ukrainians because this is the same mentality as Putin, and he's absolutely under Kremlin's control. But I don't know if he's proud of himself or he just has to for survival. Because if he truly wants to be proud of himself, he should not do all this. He's a man. He should be an independent thinker and a true leader of his people. And instead, he became like a devil for the Kremlin.
For any Chechens who dare to question Kadyrov, the options are morbid. Either stay and die or run in fear.
I Bartkalbaks deelostalums, apitnes, eeldits, juitsalums, juie ne, tjuek ne, hoe vier in het zoutse weems, wat je dat oude.
And nowhere seems to be safe. Secretive Chechen death squads hunt Europe and further afield. Critics of Kadyrov have been brutally murdered in Berlin, Vienna, Lille, and even Dubai. More recently, Kadyrov has turned his aggression into the Chechen Republic's LGBTQ+ population. Homosexuality and gender nonconformity have always been a taboo in the state. But in 2017, Kadyrov began what has since been described as a genocide of young men and women.
It became a project of eliminating every person who could possibly be suspected of LGBTQ emotions or thoughts, if not activity.
Survivors have spoken about being held in concentration camp-like detention centers, where they were beaten and tortured with electric shocks. Others were freed with the understanding that their own families would punish them even worse than the state. When the media began to report this, Kadyrov declared that gay Chechens do not exist.
Это ерунда. У нас таких людей нету. Нету у нас геев подальше от нас, чтобы очистили кровь, там, если есть таких, пусть забирают.
Escaped survivors of the genocide are still fearful for their lives, fearful that Kadyrov's death squad could come and find them. Kadyrov's reign seems to have no limits, but one wonders when he will go too far, even for Putin. Putin rarely condemns Kadyrov, and Russian money pours into the region.
For Vladimir Putin, he is still convenient for the Kremlin. And that's the reason he remains in power and is able to do whatever he does.
It's really a very sad affair. I think his people will not like him, or they don't like him, or maybe they never liked him, but they just have to be quiet because they fear war, they fear more bloodshed and more torture, more suffering from Russia.
Yes, Master.
I think he also has, I hope, maybe I'm wrong, he also had some moments of shame and regret, but he was already under the yoke, could not fight against the Kremlin. So he had to be brutal. Or maybe he is brutal, because his soldiers that he brought to Ukraine to die or to fight are reportedly very vicious, extremely brutal.
Yes,
Master.
So maybe they're all the same gang, just in different locations. That's why they get together and try to destroy wherever they can in Ukraine. So there will be no future for Ukraine if it's lost. There will be no freedom. And as I told you already, the whole of the Ukrainian people all stand up against the war from the Kremlin. So if Russia has a chance to control Ukraine, then all these people will be treated like prisoners, slaves, or enemies continuously, and they will suffer no end. They will suffer no end.
Yes, Master.
Yes.
They will be brutally oppressed.
Or molested. The Russians will continue murdering or raping or taking everything from them.
Yes, Master.
And they might not give them enough food to eat just like before, just like decades ago.
Yes, Master.
Therefore, that's why I don't care what happens to me because of all this karma. I have to say it. I have to say NATO has to come in totally committed to having Ukraine, to flush Russia out.
Yes, Master.
And if not, then Europe and other countries have to courageously stand up, go in to help Ukraine, because that means they're helping themselves. And they will be safe if Russia loses the war in Ukraine.
Yes, that's right.
If Ukraine regains their complete freedom, regains their land, regains their democracy, just like before anything happened, then Europe will be safe as well. Other countries also will be safe, not just Europe alone.
Yes, Master.
Many other countries or states like Georgia, South Ossetia, Abkhazia region, Nagorno-Karabakh have the bloody hands of Russia on them and the destruction of all that. So many millions of people died because of Russia's invasion or interference or colonization, yeah?
Yes, Master.
Because of that, millions of people died everywhere, wherever Russian leaders went with their army.
Yes, Master.
Despite all that, the world still has forgiven Russia because they have things to offer.
Yes, right.
But I can't believe it. This kind of brutal regime from one leader to another, it's like a succession of brutality.
Yes.
So unless NATO wants Ukraine to experience that great famine, hunger, death again, or become another Chechnya, or become divided like Germany before, then they don't have to do anything.
Yes, Master.
But the whole world will hold the chief of NATO responsible. Not just the chief, but some big members of NATO. The world, history, and heaven will hold NATO responsible for this war in Ukraine. And whatever else bad happens to Ukraine, like if they become like Chechnya.
This is the first time that anyone has threatened to use nuclear weapons for conquest. This is the fundamental issue which too few people in NATO have actually realized or made clear to themselves. And so I think we need to really be much more serious than we are. And these kind of excuses, oh, we can't defend the Ukrainians because it'll start a nuclear war, really already is acceding to Russian blackmail. And that will not stop anywhere, because once they've succeeded there, they will go on and say, we will use nuclear weapons when we attack some other country. You have to say, no, we will put a stop to this now.
They'd welcome any other rich and famous and prestigious countries to go in as a member of NATO.
Yes.
So it's all about money, profit, and prestige. Nothing truly idealistic, nothing truly noble, or even love thy neighbor type of doctrine.
Yes.
So I told you, to hell with the rules.
Yes.
There are no rules when it comes to helping your neighbor in need, especially in desperate need, in life and death matters.
Yes, exactly.
Especially they know that the enemy of their neighbor is brutal, vicious, and has a history of atrocities everywhere before.
Yes, Master.
Before, the chief of NATO, Mr. Stoltenberg, had earned a good name in the world because he kind of negotiated between Russia and Norway at that time and helped to settle it out.
Yes, Master.
But now is a big war, is a life and death and bloody and destruction everywhere in one country. It's Putin and the gang.
Yes, Master.
Because they continue the tradition of Stalin. They couldn't care less about how many people die and how they suffer. If they're starved to death, or if they're bombed to death, or if raped, or if molested, or robbed of everything they have.
Yes, right.
It's just like a highway robber gangster.
Yes, Master.
It's truly like that.
Yes. Yeah.
What else?
That's right.
Can you imagine any decent country would do that?
No, Master.
So the Russian people, they don't like this. They also went out on the streets to protest, and even now they're on TV, they voiced their opinion, opposed to the war of Putin.
Yes, Master.
Even recently, one of Putin's so-called allies also voiced openly against Putin's war in Ukraine.
On the stage, Putin tried to justify the Ukraine war as legal under law. But the Russian president faced some pushback, this time from a key ally.
We do not recognize either South Ossetia or Abkhazia, and apparently this principle will be applied to quasi-state territories, which in our opinion are Luhansk and Donetsk.
This is not the first time Kazakhstan has denied the independence of Donetsk and Luhansk. In June, Kazakhstan also said it would not assist Russia in circumventing sanctions. Now, according to reports, Russia asked Kazakhstan to join its forces in Ukraine, but Kazakhstan refused.
If there was truly Putin sitting there at all. Yeah, but these kinds of possessed, manifested from the dealers, the demons, they cannot last long outside.
Yes.
Not like normal people. We are there always, 24/7.
Yes.
This kind of manifestation from demons, it won't last long. Even if it was there, or even hologram, even just created by makeup or by the double. I saw many photos of Putin before, and many photos of Putin recently. Not the same face.
That's right.
The face, one side, it's not the same.
Yes.
Of course, if you don't have the comparison or you don't look very closely, you won't see the difference. It doesn't matter if it's a different face or not. Putin is dead, I told you.
Yes, Master.
I have no reason to lie to you. What for? And it's confirmed by heaven already. And then my protector took him somewhere. I can't tell you where yet, okay? I don't want to.
Yes, Master.
Maybe in the future, I tell you. Right now, it's not good to tell.
Yes, Master.
But the world doesn't know that Putin is dead. They thought Putin was sitting there. And even then, they still opposed him before that economic forum.
Yeah. Master, why don't we recently put any Putin news on with his pictures?
Yeah, because we don't report fake news.
That's true.
Sorry.
Yes, Master.
If you know something is fake, are you going to tell it to people?
No, Master. No.
Or you can put those pictures, or you can put those news on, but you have to put everywhere like fake news.
Yes.
Then I will allow it. We have the 5 precepts. We always have to tell the truth.
That's right, Master.
And we cannot tell lies. That's one of the precepts.
Yes, Master.
And to tell a fake story is also a violation of our principle.
Yes, Master.
We don't report fake news.
Yes, Master.
We have nothing to gain from fake news. Even if we do, we don't want to.
Right, Master, yes.
Because one of the precepts, one of our principles, is that you do not tell lies. You remember, right?
Yes, Master.
You shall not kill, you do not tell lies, you do not steal things from people, you do not commit improper sexual relationships, and you don't take intoxicants.
Right.
So, one of the precepts is that we don't tell lies.
Yes, Master.
So we cannot air the fake news, especially if I know it's fake.
Yes.
Other people, they don't know, so they do what they want.
Yes, Master.
I know it's fake, so I cannot let you air it on our TV. Not knowingly doing that.
Yes, Master.
All right. Any other questions?
Can Master please tell us when the war will end?
I wish I could.
Oh.
I wish I could. I know many things.
Yes, Master.
I know it. But if I tell you, it will turn out differently.
Oh.
I have learned my lesson many times. Not just one time, but one very particular time about vegan. People think it's difficult to change everything.
Yes, Master.
Excuse me. In fact, it's very easy. Just no more animal, people, industry. No more.
That's right.
When there's no meat, then no heat, no buying.
Yes, exactly.
So simple. And whatever already there, left over, throw away.
Yes.
And people can have many more new jobs when people will have more employment.
Yes, exactly.
And the whole country will become more bright, more happy, and more blessed. They will feel it. Just right now, it's all surrounded by darkness, mostly. Many leaders have all very dark colors around them. They don't have any auras. They just have dark colors. I don't like the color of Stoltenberg. Unless he changes his heart, unless he does something truly to lead NATO, to help Ukraine to gain peace quickly, and to prevent more war in Europe, and to prevent a world famine.
Yes.
His color now, dark coffee, will not change. It might get even darker.
Wow.
If he continues just to abuse his power, just to take advantage of the position, just to live well. Just sit there, get paid, now and then come out, say something.
Yes, Master.
Nothing good. Nothing really practically, truly good. If he continues that way, then his color that's surrounding him, that's exuding out of him, will be darker and darker. Like some other leaders in the world. I don't want to name them all.
Yes, Master. Yes.
I am not allowed to tell you. I know. I'm just not allowed to tell you.
No, I understand, Master.
I keep asking many times, can I, but I cannot.
Yes, Master.
Like many other things, I wish I could tell you. Some things are very interesting, some things very happy, something sad. But right now you can see in the whole world, you can calculate how long the war in Ukraine will last. Even if the NATO chief says that it will last long, you don't have to always listen to all this garbage from P and from Stoltenberg. Sound like stone, like a mountain of stones.
Yes.
Anyway, it's enough garbage already. I don't know why all this money that's spent to kill, to murder, and to war with neighbors or other countries, my God, that alone could make our world a paradise already, with all the poor people being helped, with all the beneficial programs for humanity.
Yes.
Then we will never have this kind of photographs of children, infants, with only ribs showing, even protruding out of their skin.
Yes.
You can count the ribs on their body because they're so hungry, starving everywhere.
Yes.
Most of the families here have already lost everything to the drought.
The doctor is called to help a 5-month-old boy called Atan, who's just been brought in by terrified parents. Atan is suffering because his mother is so malnourished that she's unable to breastfeed anymore. Another emergency unfolds a few steps away. It's a boy with malaria, but malnutrition has made him weak. The doctors do everything they can, working frantically to resuscitate the boy. But it's too late.
90% من الحالات يعني الأطفال خاصة الأطفال children 90% من السكان يعني من الحالات المركزة عندنا في المستشفى malnutrition.
Those causes are complex but don't include lack of food in the markets. There's plenty to buy, but many can't afford it. 6 years of conflict have taken their toll. Food prices have risen about 140%. The Yemeni currency has collapsed, along with the economy.
And all this war and destruction, my God, so much money will be spent later on if the war ends. So much money to reconstruct a country.
Yes, that's right.
The sad, sorrowful, and brutal energy, I don't know how long it will take to rebuild it.
Yes.
For both Russia and Ukraine, especially for Ukraine, the victim country.
Yes, that's right.
What's all this for? I don't know why NATO says they have rules. To hell with rules, I tell you. And now the whole country is in boiling water, on fire, in desperation, begging for help.
With new warnings, Ukraine is outgunned and desperately in need of faster deliveries of arms from the West. Ukraine's government says it can respond with only 1 artillery round to every 10 fired by Russia. And in Mariupol, this new video of mass graves. Officials say as many as 20,000 people are buried there.
Every day, I never heard President Zelensky not asking for help.
That's true. Yes, Master. True.
And at least 2 times he asked NATO to commit totally.
Yes.
Meaning with force and with soldiers and with the best equipment.
Yes, Master.
Still, they just turn a deaf ear and blind eye. So I asked Europe, all the European countries, and whatever NATO country wants to join, they must join forces to help Ukraine to flush their aggressors out.
Yes, Master.
If Russia has Ukraine anywhere as a stepping stone, as a springboard, they will be soon in hell.
Wow.
Yeah, in war. War is hell, man.
Yes, exactly, Master.
И если вы считаете, что мы остановимся на Украине, подумайте 300 раз. Напомню вам, что Украина – это всего лишь промежуточный этап в обеспечении стратегической безопасности Российской Федерации.
У нас кончится терпение, мы просто запустим что-нибудь тяжелое в сторону Вашингтона и Лондона.
Польша доиграется. Было 3 раздела Польши. 4-й будет последний.
Граница России нигде не заканчивается.
Придет время, и Польше ничего не останется. И от Прибалтики. Мы снова нашу армию подведем к западным границам. Они трусливые, они боятся. Их нужно брать испугом, кнутом.
Мы ни в коем случае не можем остановиться на полпути.
Наши подлодки способны выпустить более 500 ядерных боеголовок, что гарантированно уничтожают США и все страны НАТО в придачу.
We are naive, General Milley said yesterday. We're naive to believe that this is all going to be wrapped up in a matter of weeks or months. I'm afraid Vladimir Putin has struck out on a course that, as long as he's in control of those Russian military forces, puts at risk not only Ukraine, which we know today, tomorrow Poland, the day after Baltics. We have to be ready to stop this man, because I can tell you he won't stop at Ukraine.
So I just hope they wake up and do it.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm saying all this is bad for me, bad karma for me. But I have no heart to see the Ukrainian people suffer for nothing like that. From nothing.
Understand that.
Just like history repeats itself again. Always Russia came and molested them, possessed them, controlled them, destroyed their country and destroyed their people. Murdering, raping, and killing their people like that.
Yes, that's right.
Destroy their lives, destroy their country. They have done nothing. Just because they're smaller, they're weaker. And the whole world cheated them to give up their nuclear weapons with just empty promise that they will protect Ukraine.
Yes.
So how bad can that be already? And NATO talks about rules, huh? Just garbage. Do you hear me?
Yes, exactly.
Absolute rubbish. Nothing more. I don't like the darkness that Stoltenberg exudes from his being. I really hope he understands better. Otherwise, he will just be dragged lower and lower and lower and nearer to hell, and then become one of them, one of the demons.
Yes, Master.
Right now, he's possessed, but he will become one of them if he continues like that, instead of fighting for goodness against evil.
Yes, Master.
Yes, Master.
And not just him. In Europe, there are some more. You know already.
Yes, Master.
You know at least one of them. Okay, then I'm sorry to have, ended with a negative note, but what else to say when we talk about Ukraine and the unjustified war from Russia, from the Kremlin?
Right.
Yes.
Not all Russian people agreed with that. It's just the Kremlin.
Yes.
Just Moscow, the evil, stupid, greedy government continues the trend of the earlier leaders.
Yes.
Oh, so sad, so sad. Oh, so sad.
These children are on the move inside Ukraine, trying to stay ahead of the fighting here. Many of them orphans, most of them from broken homes. They are working hard here. But towards what kind of future? No one really knows. All of them went through something, she says. Some of them were caught in the shelling or the bombing. Some of them had no shelter because their homes got hit. Of course, each of them has trauma. Her legs are trembling, she says, and she's harming herself. They are stressed by moving from their hometowns in awful conditions, she says. They are worried about families, the instability, and they feel alone. What I offer, she says, is support and love. They all need love, so much love. Irina says, I just want to comfort them and make their trauma smaller and smaller and smaller. Nicole Bulishenko is 12 years old. For 2 months, she's been sheltering from the bombs in a city under attack. It is so painful. I'm anxious about everyone I love.
What about her family? Are her family okay at the moment?
Yes, she says. Suddenly the things she wants to say become too difficult. But it is a glimpse of the harrowing impact all this is having on children here.
Terrible. Poor people. All these innocent children, my God. How can they live like this? Their childhood is ruined.
Yes.
And what you experience in your childhood will be almost impossible to erase.
Indeed.
Let's pray for them, at least the children, that they might recover their innocence and their optimism and their enthusiasm to continue to experience good world and education and look forward to their bright future. Because that will make their parents and grandparents happy too, and that will contribute to a peaceful energy for Ukraine and for wherever they go to take refuge at the moment. And to have hope that the war will end soon. Pray that they can return to their own land, because there's no place like home.
Yes.